Hello everyone! In this video, we will be making a very interesting game called Space Travel. In this game, a player spaceship will be shooting towards incoming enemy spaceship, which also shoots towards player. There will also be an end screen with messages based on score. If click on Restart button, the game will restart. Let's get started. Start a new project. Delete the pre-written code. Import all functions from the PyLeap library. Set the window size to 600 pixels by 600 pixels. Create a background by creating a BG variable and calling the sprite function. Select a background image from the materials library. Now create a player and an enemy sprite by using images from the materials library. To draw bullets for player and enemy sprite, we will use few Christmas decorative pieces. Draw two sprites for bullet, one for the player and other for the enemy. Use the source as shown in the video. After declaring the sprites, create the main game function. Inside this function, call the clear function of the window. This will reset screen for every repetition of this function. Now, draw backdrop in all the sprites. At the end, call repeat function and give the name of the game function inside. Call the run function in the last line. Run the program. Notice the sprites are quite big. Let's scale them down. Set the scale of the enemy sprite to 0.2. Set the scale factor of the enemy bullet and player bullet to 0.1 each. Let's also make the background scale down by scaling its width by 80% and height by 50%. To scale width, use scale X attribute, and for height use scale Y attribute. Run the program. Every sprite looks correctly sized. Now let's program the movement of the player spaceship. The program for it is quite easy. Assign the X coordinate of the mouse pointer to the X coordinate of the player sprite. Similarly, make program for Y coordinate. Run the program. Notice the player is going wherever the mouse pointer is. Now let's make the bullet move. Since the bullet will be moving upward, increase its Y coordinate by 20. Now check if its Y coordinate has become more than 600. This will check if the bullet has crossed the screen. If it has, make its X coordinate same as player and its Y coordinate slightly more than player's Y coordinate. This will ensure that the bullet always starts wherever the player sprite is. Run and test the program. Now let's make the enemy sprite move. The sprite will be moving downwards, so decrease its Y coordinate by 5. The enemy has to reappear at the top once it crosses the bottom boundary. So check if its Y coordinate is lower than -40. If it has, set its Y coordinate to slightly more than 600. Select its X coordinate randomly. Don't forget to import the random library. Now let's move to the enemy's bullet. The program for this will be similar to the player's bullet, except the enemy's bullet will be traveling downwards. Run the program and check if everything is running as intended. Now, let's define the collision between bullet and enemy. If the collision occurs, make the Y coordinate of the enemy towards the top of the screen. Select the X coordinate randomly. Also, the bullet will return to player's position. So make the bullet's X coordinate similar to player and Y coordinate slightly more than player's. Similarly, if the enemy bullet touches the player's spaceship, the bullet will return to the enemy spaceship. Run the program to check if the changes are correct. Now we will make the program for scoring and restarting the game. Make a text sprite with text restart. Create a score attribute inside the player sprite and set it to 0. Make a text sprite to show the score. Increase the player score by 10 when bullet collides with enemy. Decrease the player's score by 5 when player touches the enemy bullet. Now, if the player collides with the enemy, call the finish function. Let's define this finish function. In the finish function, we will display a message to the user based on their score. Make few if statements to check which range does score belong to and draw a text sprite with appropriate messages. Each message will be at same position on the screen slightly below the restart text. You can write your own custom messages as well. After this, draw the start text, which prints restart on the screen. Stop the game function from repeating. Set the player score to 0. Now go back to player and enemy collision part and write a line which will call a start function when clicked upon start text. Now let's create the start function. Inside the start function, repeat the game function. Now let's show the score text on the screen. Join score text with the player score. Player score has to be converted to an integer. Call the draw function for the score text. And that's it. Run the program. The game is running as expected. Play the game and get different scores to test if the correct messages are showing up. After completion of the project, try adding an enemy which travels left to right but does not shoot any bullet. Appears randomly on the left side of the screen. Good luck.